Africa. There is a historical legacy there with Europe, and a whole lot of other, factors. So it's very important, that we look at it going forward. Historical, economic ties, geographical proximity are all very important factors here. And I will dwell on demographics because I was talking about the youth, and that is where I am going to end. Today, nativism and anti-immigration define the policies in Europe, because once the nationalists, the far right, have won seats through the anti-immigration policies, even the mainstream parties are now pivoting towards that. So these two factors are defining, the policies in Europe today. Meanwhile, for years, Europe has treated Africa as a reservoir of raw materials and cheap professional labor, whether it is our nurses, our doctors, and other skilled professionals who, move into, Europe. As can be observed, the youth of Africa are kicking against this lopsided paradigm. For the records, in 1960, for example, in 1960, the population of Europe was 634 million against 273 million in Africa. Today, the population of Europe is 774 million against 1.5 billion in Africa. You can see the quantum leap in terms of demographic shifts, between Europe and, Africa. And they will also, tell us all the figures that we have from the, whether the population, census and others. What do they tell us? By 2100, that is 75 years from now, at the beginning of the next century, Africa's population is projected to hit 4 billion, as against 419 million for Europe. Meaning Europe is depopulating, and then Africa is increasing. No amount of fortress Europe will keep the young from crossing the Mediterranean or finding any means, to go whatever barriers that you erect. They erect there. And if I were a European today, I would team up with the continent to develop infrastructure, basic infrastructure, electricity, roads, factories, help transform raw materials into finished products that will provide jobs and keep the young people on the continent. Even today, in fact, the majority, about 80% of migratory flows are intra-African. They don't go outside. So if you don't hold the young people by giving them the opportunities, there is no fortress that can keep them from crossing the Mediterranean or any other place to reach there. And if I were Europe, I would not discourage Africans from partnering with China in the development of infrastructure. If Europe is forward-looking, it will partner with China or even encourage it to develop, to help develop infrastructure on the continent, because that has been the scorecard, the call card of China, to it. And Europe, today we see that Europe somehow is pivoting towards China itself. But Africans are being discouraged from doing business with them. They are going to take over your economy and all that. That scaremongering tactic is not going to help neither Africa nor them. So it is very important that we become very realistic in terms of where we are going. Finally, why has civil society and citizen agency for responsible and responsive governance continued to wane since the 1990s? And I think CDD is the best platform to try and ask this question. From the 1989 the citizen action, and today, that you hardly see it. In many of the countries where governments tweak their constitutions to stay in power, it is because of the silence of the citizens. Because ECOWAS can never force change in a country unless on the back of citizen action. That is the important thing. So if ECOWAS is seen as the do-it-all, for us, nothing would happen. We will continue to have manipulation of constitutions and a whole lot of the other factors. It is time for citizens to recapture that spirit of the 1980s, because we are at the crossroads. And this is where I would want to end the discussion. It has been a bit long, but I hope there is enough food here for thought. Thank you very much for your attention.